What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dirty Slam podcast. It's Spicy Boy Thursday, so grab your hot wings or anything you deem spicy and buckle up. I'm your host, the gambling guru, the Salama Jama himself, Matthew Donnelly, and I'd like to personally thank you and everyone else listening so very much for letting me penetrate your ear holes yet again this week. Like always, if you like the show, be a friend, tell a friend. If you don't, act like nothing happened, move on with your day, and forget this ever was here. All right. We got a big show ahead, a look ahead into the matchups of week 9, some hot and spicy takes. And for that, we're going to be joined by none other than Ryan Chaffin. Later in the show, we'll talk some big matchups. And of course, we'll have the leader of the Rods Bods, Joshua Roddy, give us his presence this afternoon. Should be a great show. Let's get into it. All right. Here we're bringing in a man who's very close to me. I mean, he's literally upstairs. That's how close he is to me. A man who calls Harrisburg his home, Keenan Flagler his future, and is a genius when it comes to guessing bets. He would have won a lot of money last week if there was any on the line. He scored in every matchup and looks to repeat that this week. The guest betting guru of the week, Ryan Chaffin, everybody.
Thanks for having me, Donna. Very excited to be here. It's only fitting that I'm on the show before Rod, given that he's never beat me in anything in this league. So I'm very happy to be here today.
Oh man. Maybe we'll have Rod comment on that later. I don't think he will, though, because his team is hot and rolling, and your team couldn't even beat the Mafiosos.
Yeah, we
Anyways,
got some work to do.
We're not here to talk about the Jollers. We're here because your big, beautiful brain of yours scored in every single matchup last week, all right? So we're going to be going through each matchup. I'm going to be hitting you with some questions, hitting you with some scores. Obviously, you don't have to tell us anything crazy. You don't have to tell us who you're putting in each lineup. I just want to get some feedback. You don't want to have everybody know what you know. You just got to be a personality out here.
Absolutely, just some tidbits, but not revealing the whole hand. That'll come out later on my weekly picks Thursday afternoon.
I like it. All right, so we'll start here with the first matchup of the week: the Mafiosos versus the Weenies, or the Weenie Wolves. All right. It is set at a 25.5 spread, with the Mafiosos being the favorite, 200-point over under. And Sleeper projects it as of right now at about 129 to 85. Mafiosos having the 129, of course. Weenies having 85, all right? So here we're looking at the Mafiosos getting back McLaurin into their lineup, all right? He wasn't there last week. Obviously, the Mafiosos scored extremely low. It was a matchup that you were watching closely because you could have had the upset, even though you guessed the cover right. All right. McLaurin's coming back, but the Weenies are getting Deshaun Watson back. All right. Kind of walk me through how that's going to shape how you're looking at this matchup. Who do you think is going to add more value to the respective team?
Yeah, that's a great question, Don. I really like the Mafiosos in this matchup. Really think Terry McLaurin is going to come out strong out of the bye, really tear up a Giants defense. It's going to be tired from Monday night. While the Mafiosos don't have the best wide receiver on the Panthers, old Robbie Anderson, do look for DJ Moore to score big this weekend. I think the Panthers are going to need to air the ball out to keep up with the explosive Chiefs offense. But the real thing that I want to key on this matchup is Griffin's currently starting a player in his lineup who tested positive for COVID, and Kendrick Bourne, and is not playing. If I know Griffin, he's going to leave that player in his lineup and play him Thursday night, which is going to be a big fat 0 in his flex position. So for me, that's really going to be the difference in looking for the Mafiosos to cover. I won't comment on the over/under. You'll have to check out the spreadsheet later in the week, but definitely like the Mafiosos in this matchup. I think they come back, had a couple down weeks where they haven't scored as much, but have still escaped with a win. And I think it's time for them to really solidify themselves as a contender versus a middle of the road team this week.
For sure. Well, we'll update that sleeper projection as it comes out. Weenies could get over projected 90 if they put in Old Man Fitzgerald. They could even put in DJ Dallas, who would not be the starting running back. Oh, Jordan Wilkins. Jordan Wilkins could get in there. He actually might be the starter this week because Jonathan Taylor's banged up. Word is Mafiosos will not be starting Jonathan Taylor because they're worried about the ankle. Let him heal up. Let him rest on the bench. It's all good. All right. Moving into the next one. Focusing more on the Mafioso side of the ball. You kind of talked about DJ Moore already, but you neglected to mention Adam Thielen. Both of those players had very poor performances last week. I think Thielen might have had just under like 3 or 4 targets, only caught like 1 or 2 balls. Honestly, they absolutely thrashed the Packers in the ground. So he might as well have just been like at home sipping some champagne. How do you view Adam Thielen this week into a home game versus Detroit?
Yeah, that's a great question. People don't know this, but I had Kirk Cousins on my team for about a year. He and I are actually good friends. I talked to him earlier this weekend. He says he really likes Adam this week.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think if the Lions watch any film, they're gonna put at least 7 guys in the box and try to slow down Dalvin Cook. I think that opens it up for Thielen. He's the wide receiver 6 on the year. I think that's gonna prevail this week against a Lions defense that's honestly pretty trash.
Mm-hmm.
Last week definitely his worst week, but I think that's just an outlier. I look to see him bounce back, and I think that's another reason why I like the Mafiosos in this matchup.
Cool. All right, and the last thing, obviously, terrible week for Cooper because his quarterback might as well be a garbage can. Sorry for Dallas fans out there. It was also a not great for Slayton. He was overthrown on about 3 deep balls that could have been touchdowns. Crazy enough. Do you think they're going to be able to match the Thielen, DJ Moore, McLaurin wide receiver output, or do you think they're just going to be left behind in this matchup?
Yeah, I think they're getting left in the dust. I expect a good week from Slayton. I think Daniel Jones will get the throws under control, but honestly, if I was Griffin, I probably wouldn't start Amari Cooper. Dalton's on the COVID list. We got Ben DeBooty out there again. Don't expect much from him. Would be surprised if Amari had more than 3 catches.
Wow.
I know you mentioned Jordan Wilkins. I would put him in as a flex. Maybe even John Ross, who hasn't seen the field in a couple weeks, still might be a better play than Amari this week.
So would you start old man Fitzy over Amari Cooper?
I would.
Wow. All right. Well, let's move on. That's crazy.
That's my take for the week.
Ooh, Fitzy over Cooper. You all heard it there. Hot takes. Spicy Boy Thursday. All right. Next matchup: Cheese Boards versus the Ramblin' Rubber Duckies. RR Duckies, because Excel is not a fan of that long name. All right. Projected at about 105 to 102 when I was looking at it earlier. Now it's 112 Cheese Boards to 104 Ramblin' Rubber Duckies and Sleeper. All right. Cheese is about 7.5 point favorites on a 190 over under. All right. All that in mind, Hunter has 11 players on his bench that are projected 0 points. All right. Can we just talk about that? Can you give me a take on what's going on with the Rubber Duckies and how that's playing into how you're projecting this matchup?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at the history of the Rubber Duckies, they're not a franchise that values their players. Not like the Mafiosos and their love from opportunity.
Yeah.
The Pillows and their commitment to Saquon. Yeah. I think it's just really a byproduct of poor management. The fact that the players just don't want to play. Of those 11, I would argue, most of them probably aren't even injured or sick. They just don't want to play for Hunter's team.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I mean, it's sad to see. You don't like to see that. But in regards to the matchup itself, I won't go with who I'm going for on the spread. I'll mix it up, talk about the over-under this time. But I like the under.
You like the under, all right.
I like the under. Hunter's team has scored about 75 points each of the last 2 weeks. But the big thing for me is the Cheese Boards starting Marvin Jones.
Yeah.
Andrew, if you're listening to this podcast, as someone who had Marvin Jones for 2 years, he already had his 1 or 2 good weeks of the season. He'll be back to 1 target and maybe 1 catch next week. That's a trap play. If you're listening, I would take him out of your lineup.
Even when Galladay is projected to not play?
Even when Galladay is projected to not play. I mean,
wow.
I think you saw TJ Hawkinson get 10 targets last week. I think that'll continue.
You think that goes up to 20 maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think he breaks the record for receptions by a tight end in a single game this week.
Hey,
Look for Hawkinson to go for 68 fantasy points, and a big one for the Jollers this
I
week.
mean, it's light work because Jack Mitchell gave up DK Metcalf, so it's only right if Hawkinson becomes the greatest tight end of all time after leaving
Exactly.
Jack's team. You
It's
know
what they do. It's what Jack Mitchell does. He trades the players right before their prime.
exactly. Well, I was going to ask you who your key players is in this matchup, but I like how you already talked about Marvin Jones. My next question is these pairs of receivers here. We got Chark and Ayuk on the cheese boards versus the oh, he's not even playing Chark. All right, let's focus on Juju and Ayuk versus Adams and Diggs here. All right, this Adams and Diggs are a two-headed monster, but Juju's got Dallas, and I've heard some rumors that that Dallas is ousting their coach soon. All right, maybe we'll see if they just decide to not play. And Ayuk is playing Green Bay, and Green Bay's been known to get scorched, but Green Bay did lock up Thielen last week because they couldn't lock up Dalvin. Anyways, what are you looking at in that pair? Who do you think ends up with the more points, Juju and Ayuk or Adams and Diggs?
Yeah, I like that pair. It's a competitive matchup for sure. I think the difference is actually going to be Stephon Diggs. I
Mm-hmm.
think you're going to see Adams and Ayuk both go for pretty good weeks. I'd expect each of those guys to have above 15 points. But I think the Josh Allen deep connection with Stephon Diggs, heard they spent some time in the hot tub this week after the game, just getting their minds right. So I really like that connection coming into Sunday. But I think that's the difference. I think Mapletron has another 4 touchdown week, eats up some of
Okay.
those targets for Juju. I don't think Juju's going to do bad by any means, but don't think he's going to have the elite performance he needs to outscore Stephon Diggs.
Okay. I like that input. All right, we're going with the under on this one. Speaking of Mapletron, our next matchup: Foot Jawlers, the Foot JJ Allers, the Foot Jawlers versus the Bear Necessities, DA Bears, DA Bear Necessities. All right, 126 to 89 last time I looked in Sleeper. Let me go check again. It is 126 to 89 still. Foot Jawlers are projected to absolutely slaughter the Bears. The line is 19.5 point favorites for the Foot Jawlers on a 175 over under, the lowest scoring matchup of the week according to the linesman, whoever that guy is. He's crazy. All right. Anyways, Wentz and Fulgham are on bye. Does it matter?
No, I don't think it matters if Chris has anybody on his team. With the rest of his lineup, doesn't matter who he's got at quarterback. He's not winning against the Jawlers. Look for the Jawlers to cover this week. I think if I remember correctly, there was some talk that this might be a sneak pick, but I'm slamming the Jawlers to cover. No doubt in my mind. I think we go for 135 this week. Chase Edmonds finally getting the run he deserves as the RB1. Think he's good for about 25.
Wow.
Got a lot of healthy players in the lineup. Great matchups. Claypool is versus Dallas, who's just absolutely awful. We got Big Ben against Dallas as well, which means he might have more than 150 passing yards this week. Teddy Bridgewater is Teddy Bridgewater, so I don't really think there's much need to comment there if you've been watching the Panthers. But we know he'll have a pick on the last drive, so that's definitely a 2-point hindrance for Chris.
Sure.
But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. In fact, I want to commit on the air that I will trade my first round pick
Don't do this, buddy.
to
Don't do
Reed
this.
Mayers
Don't do this,
if
buddy.
the Jawlers don't cover the spread
Stop.
this week.
Don't
You
do
heard
this.
it here first.
Stop.
First round pick will be going to
No,
Reed Mayers
you see-
if the Jawlers don't cover the spread. Full
Okay.
confidence.
First of all, I want to bring up the absolute disrespect of you saying this is the sneak of the week, like you didn't even look at the comments. That's false. This is the possible upset of the week, and the Bears beating you.
I can't believe it.
No, yeah, the disrespect is immeasurable. I'm disappointed in you.
The
It's all right, though.
mafiosos continue to disrespect our team. Didn't
No,
listen
hey,
to us at the
whoa,
playoff
hey.
Tinder. It's fine. We're gonna
No,
earn our
hey, this
respect.
isn't.
That
Hey,
it's not given to us.
hey, buddy, this isn't a mafioso's podcast. This is the Dirty Slam podcast. All right, we have no relation to the Mafiosos and their beautiful boy of an owner. We don't we know him a little bit, all right? We've seen him a few times, but we're not related to him whatsoever. Anyways, I had some comments on Twitter of a recent matchup, maybe 2 weeks ago, where the team that the Bears was playing was up big, all right? And then this absolute maniac, Tyler Lockett, drops 40 or 50 on his head, you know? Does that scare you at all that Tyler Lockett could literally just one bang your team and then you have to cry and roll into the next week here?
I mean, no one likes to be one banged by Tyler Lockett, but I think
As opposed to
with
two bang or
Mapletron,
three bang?
yeah, of course.
Okay.
With Mapletron in my lineup, not only has he had his 45-point week, which could match Tyler Lockett if he were to do that again, but I don't think he will. But he has a much cooler nickname.
That's
It's a
true.
known fact that players with better nicknames perform better. Chris doesn't even have a name; it's just a goat emoji for
Wow.
1 week. Well, Chris is 2-6. I mean, I'm 3-5, so I can't talk too much, but really not worried. Honestly, I hope that Tyler Lockett scores 45 points.
You do.
So I can still show that my team's going to cover the spread, even with that. I'm really not concerned about this matchup. His running backs, Phillip Lindsay and Devin Singletary. I like Phillip Lindsay in the Atlanta matchup, but would not be surprised if those guys combined for less than 20 points this week.
Yeah, I don't like talking about Chris's team all that much. It's just not good. I mean, Antonio Brown's back. Chris says he's the king. I think he's a jester, of course, a jokester. Anyways, we don't have to talk much about AB. AB and Lockett could go nuclear, but you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and tell the Frogs and all the fans of the Frogs out there, on behalf of Ryan here, I don't think he really meant that he was gonna trade his first round pick. Are
I
you
meant it, Frogs Nation.
okay?
Heard
Frogs
it here
Nation,
first.
he meant it. He'll give you a first round pick. The commissioner, Hunter, he's gonna have a field day with this if this actually happens. Anyways, last question in this matchup. What's up with Josh Jacobs, bro? The
Oh,
One of the names of, or one of the founding members of your name, the Foot Jawlers, can he pick it up, man? I mean, he's been pretty sucky these last few weeks.
you know, it's been a disappointing season for JJ number one this year. We really thought that this was going to be his breakout. With that being said, he's still the number 9 RB. So we got an RB1 on the squad. I think the problem is just a lack of want to. Really, I think he got
Okay.
complacent.
Yeah.
Knew he was the brand and the face of the Jawlers, and thought that
Oh.
that was just something that he could take for granted and not have to perform.
Mhm.
So if he doesn't score at least his projected 15 and a half this week, we might have to look at a logo change,
Yeah.
perhaps bringing in Julio or Jerry Judy. But
I've
I don't want to get to
actually
that.
I've actually heard that the Foot Jawlers have been known to spank bad boys into submission. I'm reading this off the internet. Is that true?
That's confirmed.
Huh.
In addition to if I lose, in addition to Reed getting my first round pick, Josh Jacobs massive spanking on the way.
Man,
But really,
prayers up.
I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that he turns it up late season, and I
Mhm.
still have hope that he can be that top 6 RB that he was drafted to be,
Sure.
real cornerstone of our team. But yeah, I would lie if I said I'm not disappointed, but here we are. We're
Yeah,
still in the hunt for playoff contention.
that's
Probably gonna have
true.
to sneak one against the Rod Bods in the last week and get some help from the Swines and Frogs. But we're still in it, and we're ready to have our best players lead us to that playoff berth.
That's true. You never want to see a star player like Josh Jacobs not do well. I'm a fan of studs going off. Speaking of unfortunate events to studs, our next matchup we're going to talk about is the Turtles versus the Frogs.
Mm.
This is another humongous spread of 40.5 point favorites for the Turtles on a 225 over under. All right. It's as I'm looking at the sleeper, it's about 129 to 96 as the sleeper notifications. Only a 90% chance the Turtles come out on top, but I think that isn't factoring in Christian McCaffrey, who's definitely going to come back this week and do Christian McCaffrey things. Are you nervous if you're the Turtles? Are you nervous about Lamar and Zeke these last few weeks?
If I'm Jack Mitchell, I don't love what's happening in Dallas. I think Zeke will be fine when Andy Dalton comes back next week, but I think this week you might see another down performance, which for most running backs would be fine, but for Zeke, if you're only getting 13, that's not what you drafted him to be. At the end of the day, Lamar's Lamar. I think he'll get it going. The Colts defense is nowhere near as good as the Steelers. Is Lamar the kind of quarterback that's going to win a Super Bowl in the NFL? Probably not. I know Jack Mitchell doesn't want to hear it.
Wow.
He may not have watched the game this weekend, but
he did look awful.
He did. He couldn't make the throws, but is he a great fantasy quarterback? Yeah, he is. And I actually look for Lamar to have more passing touchdowns than rushing touchdowns this week. I think he hits a big one to Hollywood Brown, gets that connection going. I think he looks to prove the haters wrong a little bit, that he can actually throw the ball and air it out. So I like Lamar Jackson this week.
Well, maybe I go ahead and use that for my daily fantasy squad. Hit that Lamar Marquise, because if that big touchdown happens, I'll be in the green. I'll be in the money. We talk about it here on the show. We like being in the money here at the Dirty Slam. If you're in the red, don't talk to me. We're only in the green here. All right. Anyways, back to the Turtles squad. What's the implications of CMC? I know the Chaffin family is close with the man. You know what's going on with his health and his well-being. All right. First week back against the Chiefs, nonetheless, it's going to be a freaking shootout. I think he'll play. Correct me if I'm wrong. I personally think CMC goes bananas for about 30 points. What are you thinking out of CMC if he's out there?
Yeah, I think that's great insight, Don. I'm definitely inclined to agree with you. I think CMC goes off this week if he's playing. I think he's hungry. He's frustrated. He's had to be on the sidelines. He's ready to go out there and compete and show that he is the best player in the league and do that against arguably the best team in the league. I've played Fortnite with Christian for about 20 minutes. So I would say that we're basically best friends.
Okay. What's he saying?
He texts me before every game.
Yeah.
And he said he feels really good about this week.
Okay.
I would agree. He's going off for 30.
Okay.
He was originally planning some season boycott when he found out he was traded to Jack Mitchell.
Wow.
Got on the horn with him, cooled him down, told him to just stay level-headed, not worry about it too much, just do his thing and control what he can control.
Sure.
And I think he's going to be a big factor for the Turtles this week. In terms of my bet guru advice of the week, I know the 40+ point spread.
Hey, we'll get there when we get there. Hey, I wanted to ask you.
All right.
I need you to slow down here, bro. I got other questions.
I get excited. Jack Mitchell's team really it holds a special place in my heart.
Well, hey, I like the Frogs better, honestly. Not gonna lie, the Frogs team has a bunch of stunts or a bunch of stunners.
Stunts. I agree.
Stunt. Yeah. I don't know what that means, but it's a thing. All right. He's got J.D. McKissick and Rex Burkhead starting, but I don't ever want to say that again. But what he does have is DK Metcalf and Kyler Murray. All right. You don't have to talk much about DK if you don't want to. That dude's an absolute maniac. All right. You don't have to mention anything. The question I wanted to say was, do you think after this season and seeing Lamar on the other side of this matchup kind of poop the bed the last couple of weeks, do you think Kyler is a top 2 dynasty quarterback, or do you still think it's like the Mahomes and Russell Wilson kind of thing, or Mahomes and Lamar? What's your top 2 here if you had to box them in?
Yeah, that's fantastic question. Kyler Murray is a guy that I have in a redraft league and just really holds a special place in my heart. And I think he's a top 2 dynasty quarterback. I'm bringing out some spicy takes today for Spicy Boy Thursday.
Okay, yes.
I like Kyler Murray as a top 2 dynasty quarterback.
Okay.
In the near future. I would rather have him on my team than Lamar Jackson. I think this is his breakout campaign. If you look at what he's done the last couple of weeks, 39 points, 23 points, 28 points, 29 points. He's a great quarterback. He's young, got an elite receiving core around him. Has a young offensive coordinator, head coach who likes to really air out the ball. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything about this week in particular. I want to keep that for my kind of my secret betting knowledge. But long term,
Sure.
I'd rather have Kyler Murray on my team than Lamar
Sure.
Jackson.
I got you. I got you. And this question that you were trying to rush me into, you don't have to answer it, of course. You can keep it to the vest, but I think everybody wants to know, do you think the Frogs can cover? I mean,
Yeah,
this dude, I came out and said it on Tuesday. I think this is a slam for the Turtles, man. I think they cover because Kyler and DK are the only guys this guy's got on his team. I mean, Jack's getting Christian back. We said he's going for 30. I think it's my slam. Convince me otherwise. Why do you think the Frogs cover?
yeah. Well, Don, if I'm honest with you, I don't. I don't think the Frogs
You
cover,
don't think the Frogs
especially with
cover?
the
Okay.
Turtles getting CMC back. I'm
Mm-hmm.
with you that this is my slam of the week. In
You're
addition to the
slamming.
Jawlers, can't have
Wow.
two slams, but this is a.
Yeah,
I
you got to
would
cool it out on the slams.
if you're gonna choose between the Jawlers covering and the Turtles. As much as it pains me to say, I'd hit the Turtles this week. I think Christian McCaffrey is going nuclear. I think Jack's team is back for 160 this week. DK will probably go off for 30, but the combination of Rex Burkhead and McKissick for Dalvin and Zeke is just going to be too much for the Frogs to overcome.
Yeah, I do want to point out that in this Buffalo matchup that Russell and DK and Lockett have, how the cornerbacks of Buffalo tend to line up. Um, Lockett is actually going to have the best cornerback matchup. So if anything, it might be one of those weeks that Lockett goes for like 30, like 2 touchdowns, maybe, because DK has the harder responsibility this week. Anyways, we hit it. We're thinking Jack covers on this massive spread. Um, Bet that like you will. That's why we're here. All right. Next matchup, second to last, Swines versus the Pillas. Swines versus the Caterpillar Gillas. All right. Championship Swines, that is. It's last time I checked, it was about 110 to 84 on Sleeper. All right, which is saying about a 90% win rate for the Swines. Uh, the spread here is 28 and a half for the Swines, 180 over under. I guess the biggest question is what what are the Swines doing without Kittle? I mean, they literally have Cole Kmet as their backup, or I think they picked up Ross Dwelly. Does that matter for their team in covering here against the Pillas, or are you not
You
going to
know,
are you not going to give us insight in whether they're hitting the cover or not?
I'll say this: I like the under in this
Okay.
matchup this week. I like the under a lot, but I really think the Swines are going to have no problem winning this matchup. Uh, they're not contenders without Kittle in the lineup. I know Peyton hates to hear that, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Cole Kmet might come in and get 8 points. He'll be fine. Uh, but I really just don't think the lack of explosion at tight end is something that Peyton can overcome. I like the Swines in this matchup. Don't
Yeah.
like the over to be hit. I think both teams fall short of their projection. I actually got some breaking news. Had a call from a good friend of mine,
Mm-hmm. What are they telling you?
DGFL Schefter, come in
Wow.
during the session here. Heard Matt Stafford was actually just placed on the COVID list, which means he will
Okay.
not be playing this week.
Who's
Uh,
that affecting?
that's going to affect Giller, especially since his backup
Oh.
quarterback is on bye. Got no quarterback on the roster this week. So yeah, I mean, take that into account when you're making
Yeah.
your bets.
We're definitely here slamming we're slamming the Swans to cover with that knowledge. All right. Poor Gilla can't catch a break. That's how fantasy football works though, you know? All right. Michael Thomas. Do you think he even plays this week? What's going on with that dude? Does he want out of New Orleans? I mean, even if he plays, he's up against Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. So it's gonna be a terribly hard matchup. What do you think about Michael Thomas?
Yeah, Michael Thomas is a player that is vexed betting gurus like me for the whole year. I think you look at him, right, and you look at the season he had last year,
I'm looking.
record-breaking season, record amount of receptions. And then I think the big thing for me with him was the Week 7 incident where he got into a fight in practice
Yeah.
and was allegedly suspended
Mm-hmm.
because of that, but was planning to play. But it's been 2 weeks since that, and we still haven't seen Michael Thomas which just makes me feel like more's going on there. Maybe the injury's worse than we thought. Maybe there's some trouble in paradise. As much
That's
as
how
it
I'm
hurts,
feeling if I'm Peyton.
yeah, as much as it hurts me to say, I don't think Michael Thomas hits his projection. Going back to your comment about wanting studs to be studs, I'd love to see Michael Thomas come out and have 30. That's good for fantasy football, but unfortunately, I just think he's not going to have a great year this year. He reminds me of Jordy Nelson in his second to last year. Missed most of the year with an injury. Really didn't do much when he came back. Then got traded to the Raiders and had a washed last couple of years. Don't think that's
Yeah.
going to happen to Michael Thomas. He's very good, but I think his fantasy relevance for this season as a dominant tight end one has come to a close.
Wow, that's tough to hear. I do forget often that you are a seasoned fantasy football player. Since 2008, you've won consistently in other leagues. Well, hopefully that'll translate to the DGFL sooner than later. But anyways, on the Swines personally, I really like Allen Robinson against Tennessee. I think he'll do well. Of course, I believe that AJ Brown consequently will also have a good matchup. I think even though that's a super low over under that Vegas has put it at, I think AJ Brown and Allen Robinson could have a pretty good game. For Giller, we're really looking at on his team, he's got Saquon still out. He's going to be out for the season. I mean, what can you even say about the Pillas organization? Dobbins had a sick week last week, hyper efficient, but like, does the known choice of tanking that the Gillas are doing, does that affect where you place your bets every week against this team?
I think it does. It's hard to root for a team to cover that's actively trying to lose. And while Giller's not tanking in the sense of not starting his best lineup, I mean his best lineup at this point is
It's
just
terrible.
It's so bad that he might as well be doing it. I mean, I believe he's going to be starting Nick Mullins at quarterback this week, unless somebody hawks him off the waiver wire.
Somebody out there is listening right now trying to go hawk him off the waiver
if you're
wire.
listening,
I bet you.
and you beat Giller, you go take Nick Mullins. Yeah, I think the future looks bright for the Pillows. They have a great Twitter handle, some elite players on IR, but this season it's a lost cause. I think I know the record shows it, but I think they're the worst team in the league.
Yeah. If I was a commissioner, I would be lobbying after this season to get rid of the lottery. Because honestly, you look at a team like the Pillows and you just can't help but feel like he really deserves the first pick.
He needs it.
Or even the Weenie Wolves might deserve it. I don't know. According to some insider sources, like I said on Tuesday, Wolves might be making moves at the deadline. We'll see as that comes out. Talk about it next week on some Overreaction Tuesdays. Anyways, that's not why we're here. Last matchup, the matchup of the week. We got the Rods Bods, and we're gonna get some insider look from the Rods Bods later in this episode. They're facing off against the Peacocks in a matchup that's looking at 144 to 117. Rods Bods are 84% win probability on sleeper, which is bananas because this is supposed to be a close one. All right, the over under is 250, and the Rods are 15.5 point favorites. All right, knowing that, can if Aaron Jones plays, can him and Josh Allen really get back to what they were for the first 5 weeks of the season when they were the QB1 and RB1?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's no doubt the Peacocks have an elite team. They've struggled in recent weeks. Lost to the Jawlers, embarrassing, honestly. Nearly lost to the Weenie Wolves. I think they'll have a better week this week and hitting their projection. But I just don't think they're going to be able to overcome the Rods Bods. It's too strong of a team.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, from what I've heard from earlier this week, doesn't seem to be trending to play. That could change, but you look at Gweaves losing Myles Gaskin. That's the heart and soul of his team. It's going to be tough. I mean, the Rods Bods are projected 144 points. I mean, I don't think I've scored 144 points but twice in my life in this league. I think I've scored that over the last 2 weeks, actually. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. I do like the over in this matchup. I think
the over on 250.
I do like the over on 250.
Wow.
I think you look if both teams hit their projections, that should be no problem. I think Gleaves and Rod are both good for easily triple digits in terms of overall points. Like the Rod Bods to win, but look forward to hear what he has to say later on the show
For sure.
about the matchup.
Good insight. I guess the next question is, I mean, you just look at these teams, it's loaded, just kind of like the matchup we had last week between the Turtles and the Rods Bods. You just look at everybody there and you're thinking like, this is going to be a slugfest, all right? I mean, do you see the Bods and you see Russell Wilson, DeAndre Hopkins, and Alvin Kamara? Like, is that trio just completely unbeatable? Like, is there any other trio on anybody else's team that could possibly ever match their points scored each week?
Well, yeah, it's definitely not unbeatable because as you see, J Rod's 7-1. I'll leave the listeners to figure out who his one loss was.
Okay.
I think the only trio comparable to that, I think you got to look at the Turtles. You know, you got Christian, Dalvin, maybe Calvin Ridley. That's a combo that could potentially go for that amount of weeks. I really like the Kelsey, Pat Mahomes, Clyde or Thielen trio on the Mafiosos. So
Sure.
J-Rod certainly has got a great team. I mean, the Rods Bods have really committed to the offseason program, gotten both mentally and physically strong. But is it an unmatched trio in the league? I think not. It's arguably the best, but doesn't mean some of those other guys couldn't match their point total.
For sure. Well, I mean, I'm sitting here. Me and Rod are gonna get into this matchup more later. So I don't want to kind of hammer this too hard. I guess as we wrap this up, you kind of already mentioned a few slams of the week. You already mentioned a few overs and unders and spreads and lines that you're gonna take. So here's something I'll put you on the spot here. All right, don't give me your favorite. Like out of all the matchups, the mafiosos, the cheese boards, the jawlers, the turtles, the swines, the rod bods, all 6 of those matchups. All right. Don't give away which one is your favorite one. All right. But give me a riddle in how you're leaning in your favorite matchup. All right.
Yeah. That's a great question.
Come on, bro. Come up with it quick, man. Spicy boy Thursday.
Yeah. I think a spicy boy riddle for you guys out there. I think the sweetest matchup of the week is going to be the one involving the tastiest treats.
Oh, okay.
So I'll leave that out there for our listeners, the Dirty Slam faithful to follow.
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, feel free to DM us at the Fantasy Foot Dollars if you think you have the answer.
Give them a follow on Twitter.
Yeah, please reach out to us. We love to engage with the fans. And then happy Jollidays to everyone out there.
Happy Jollidays. Well, as I mentioned earlier, you weren't 6 for 6 in perfect matchups, but you did score on every single matchup. You and Reed are tied at the top. The reason I had you on here was because of that perfect board in which you won some money in every single matchup. Some of these lines that the matchbook makers putting out are kind of crazy. Injuries, COVID hitting at full force. It'll be tough. We appreciate you coming in, Ryan. We loved having you on the show. Look forward to seeing your bets in the mega sheet by tonight's game, Thursday night.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Don.
All right, bud. Peace out. All right, and we're coming into the hot seat for the matchup of the week. Now, we're going to be bringing in a man on track to graduate from the largest land-grant university, NC State. He boasts analytical and statistical skills unrivaled by anybody I know. Hailing from the greater Waxhaw area, owner of the Rods Bods, Josh Roddy.
What's up, sir? Happy to be here.
That's good. We're good to have you in here, man. Always a pleasure to talk to the Rods. All right, so we'll just kick this thing off.
All right.
Slow and steady. This is the second week in a row that you have the matchup of the week. How are you thinking it's going to play out against the Peacocks here?
Well, last week had a great matchup against the Turtles. Great team, great owner. He knows what he's doing. We're just trying to put our guys in the best position to go out and execute and play well, and they did that last week. And so we're hoping to do the same thing again this week against another great team. Got the Peacocks and Gweaves up next. They're looking good too. Hopefully they're all healthy. I know Aaron Jones is a little questionable for tomorrow night, or tonight, I guess, when it's released. But
Yeah.
hoping he can play, because we always want to face the other teams at their best. But we've been practicing well all week. Guys are looking good and ready to go. We're getting some big guys back that we didn't have last week. Got Nuke Hopkins and Will Fuller and James Robinson back this week from their buys. So we're looking good. They'll be out there playing and hopefully just putting them in the right spots. Our coaching staff's been preparing well so far, and we'll hope to continue that momentum we got going.
Yeah, I know you mentioned Aaron Jones. I mean, the dude's a scary opponent to play. I looked up some stats in my prep. He's RB8 after only playing 5 out of the 8 weeks on the season. Is that a concern for you? I know you have Kamara and James Robinson. Do you think they could match the performance of Aaron Jones if he's out there on the field with Aaron Rodgers slinging the rock to him?
I mean, Jones is a great player for sure, and he's got Rodgers, one of the best QBs in the league, throwing to him. But we got trust in our guys. They've been going out and producing every week. James Robinson, can't talk enough about him. Undrafted free agent rookies coming out, and I think he's number 6 running back, which is crazy for an undrafted rookie. You can't speak on him enough. Just absolute great performances.
The guys in the back confirm he is number 6.
Thank you, guys in the back. But yeah, absolutely love him. And can't forget about James Conner too. Just added him to the team a few weeks ago. He's been consistent. I think he scored a touchdown in 3 weeks maybe in a row. Not sure about that one. You can fact check me there. But our running backs are producing too. And I know Jones is a great player, and Gweaves is putting him in the right spots to succeed. He's got a bit of a tough matchup this week, but even if he goes out and plays really well, I think our guys can. Even if they don't match him, we've got a solid team around our running backs, and so I think we'll go out and we'll play well.
So yeah, it's good to hear. So I know you mentioned a few of those transactions. You got James Conner earlier in the season. Just talk me through how that was. Add in James Robinson and James Conner, and even closer towards the trade deadline this year, you added Keenan Allen. Walk me through some of those transactions and how you sought out that talent and kind of went after him.
So starting with James Robinson, that is, we had our eye on him even back as far as the draft, but we knew he had talent, and we were watching him. And then coming into Jaguars fall camp, there was some buzz around him, so we decided to snatch him up after the Fournette news, because I don't know if you remember, but back around beginning of August, our running back situation was not very stable. We had Kamara, who had missed a few days of practice and was looking for a new contract, and then Fournette just got cut out of nowhere on the same day. And so we were being patient there. We didn't know how it was going to happen. I think week 1 we ended up starting. I forget who we started week 1 as our running back 2. Might have been. I don't think it was Naheem, but anyway, didn't have the caliber of James Conner as our second back, but added James Robinson there once Fournette got cut. Got lucky that we were able to snag him, and then just looking to improve our roster after that. We had some great solid players, especially with DeAndre Hopkins and Russell Wilson out there doing their thing every week. So I'm looking to add another running back to solidify that core behind Kamara. So we found James Conner, and owner was willing to move him. So we did that. We did Keenan Allen too with the Bears. I think that happened before. Trying to give us a solid wide receiver 2 or 3 behind DeAndre and with Will. So we're always looking for talent to add to the team, and for some teams are in a different cycle than we are, and they're looking to move players. So we were happy to get those deals done, and I think their owners did well too.
Yeah, it's always great to hear. The Rods are making moves, and they're making them quickly. All right, everybody's looking at your team from the bottom of the league the middle of the league, and even the top of the league. I mean, the Mighty Peacocks have been a favorite the whole year. They're on a downward spiral, it seems. Same goes for the Turtles. Haven't really performed the last couple of weeks, but here we're focusing on the matchup of the week. So we're looking at the Peacocks. We already talked about Aaron Jones, but what about his other staple, Josh Allen? What do you think is going on with him? Does he concern you at all this week? He's playing Seattle, so it could be a shootout. Do you think Russell Wilson can match, or even Russell Wilson's been flaming hot? How do you think that quarterback matchup's gonna play out this week?
Josh Allen, another good quarterback too. We got a great quarterback matchup this week, and they're playing each other, so
Yeah.
makes it even better. I think Sleeper's telling me Russell's number one. I'm not sure. Not sure if that's completely accurate. I think Mahomes might have more points, but Allen's up there in the top five too. I know, but both great quarterbacks, and they should be. I feel like they should be about even. Great, should be a fun matchup between those two. I think probably 25 points from both of them isn't too much to ask.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess more of an organizational question here is you kind of alluded to it earlier of how it kind of happened earlier in the season of what you look at when you're setting lineups, but for all the little people out there who struggle putting in guys, when you're going into these matchups where it could be over under has it at 250, where it could just be this absolute shootout, are you putting in kind of some pocket picks that you think maybe could have a great matchup and go crazy? Or are you just going with the solid foundation every week? You have your locked and loaded dudes. Give me some insight on that.
Well, this week we don't have anybody out, and we've kind of taken care of our injury situation with our buys, and so we've got a full starting. How many do you start? 7, 4, 5, 6, starting 9, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we've got a full starting 9 full of guys that are all consistent, and there's a few of them in there that'll blow up every few weeks. James, Nuke, and Kamara, they'll just kill it every now and then. And so, but in past weeks, like last week against the Turtles, we didn't have DeAndre Hopkins, James Robinson, or Will Fuller, and so we're looking at that's probably 50 points we're missing. So on Tuesday we go into the week watching film from the week before and grinding the tape as we go into practice and just trying to fill in guys in the right spots. So definitely got to have some of those solid guys in there. So we still had Russell doing his thing, and then James Conner, solid 13 points last week, and same with Keenan Allen. But then once you got your foundation, got to have those solid guys that'll get you your 10, 15 points every week. But then you start looking for, all right, who's been practicing well and who's got the matchup this week. So biggest one was Damian Harris against Buffalo.
Oh yeah, he went bananas.
Looking at his projection was only like 7 points. I think he was our Rod Nod of the week, or Bod Nod, whatever our marketing team went there.
But 7 and went for over 18.
Yeah, he was like 250% better than he should have been. But looking at that matchup and seeing how the quarterback in New England, who is also on our roster, is more of a runner than a passer at this point, and making sure we're getting the guys there. So filling in guys like that, and then Curtis Samuel too, with McCaffrey being out, he's been asked to take a bigger role on that team. So just making sure we're getting those guys in too.
Yeah, that's good to hear about. So this is the Dirty Slam podcast, all right? We're here looking at the lines and the bets. You knew I was going to ask you this. What, to the average bettor out there, who would you say on your squad has the highest potential to pop off this week? But more importantly, you covered last week. Are you covering again? You got a 15.5 point favorite here. The guys want to know.
So in terms of going off, Kamara is always a good bet, but he also has a lot higher of an expectation. So him and Hopkins both are always good targets to bet on, especially Hopkins against Miami this week, though they have been playing well.
Yeah.
And I know Gweaves would come at me for that one if I said they hadn't been.
I like that matchup.
I like James Conner against the Cowboys because the Cowboys have been struggling, and Pittsburgh has been the opposite of struggling. I think they're They're definitely undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
And so going into that one, he should get a solid amount of carries, and hopefully he can break off a big one there. We've been hoping for that for a few weeks.
Yeah.
He's been in the right spots and he's been solid. And I think this week it's time for him to break out. And then cover 15.5. That's
15.5. Can you do it? I mean, hey, well, I know it's a little intrusive. You ain't got to say nothing. Organizational secrets. I understand. But you know what?
this is the Dirty Slam podcast.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to say you got to slam the bods this week.
Oh, we're slamming the bods this week. Here it is, fellas.
We're playing a great team, the Peacocks, but I think all around we've done well. We've done what we need to do. I think we'll take it.
All right, man. So also we're looking as the playoffs approach, starts after week 12. What's the rest of season outlook for the bods? We got to look at your ideal record. Of course, you're going to want to keep chugging and, go undefeated in the remaining 4 games, but your schedule is kind of tough. You got the Gueves and you got the Mighty Peacocks into the Swines, into the Mafiosos, and then you finish off with your rival you can't ever seem to beat, the Fantasy Foot Jollers. That's a tough slate. What are you thinking? You're trying to get that early round bye. So how are you approaching these last 4 games?
Well, our goal is to win them all, of course, but we can't get too far ahead looking at the schedule. I know we've got a tough one because we've had a weaker one in the past, and I know some people have been making comments about that, but I think we've done more than enough to show that we are real contenders here. But we just want to focus on 1 week at a time. We're trying to go 1-0 every week. So this week we got the Peacocks, and then after we face the Peacocks on Sunday and Monday, we'll move on to the next week and the Swines after that.
Yeah. I would say that everybody out there looking at the Ron's bods and how they can finish out the season, you just gotta listen to their owner here. He's taking a look at the Cocks this week. They're big, they're bad. You cannot underestimate the power of the Cocks,
You can't stop the Cock.
You cannot stop the Cock. They're rocking and rolling, number 1 in their division against the Rods Bods, who are clearly the number 1 in Division 2. So you can't scoff at this matchup because it's going to be hot tamale. All right. Here we go. Last question I got for you. You can't necessarily divulge any close to chest secrets, but are you happy with the squad you have now? The Rod Bod squad. All right. And I had some insiders talking to the weenies earlier in the week, and they kind of were telling me some things. You guys made that Tom Brady deal. Are you looking to make any other moves before the deadline, or are you just marching through with the locker room you have now?
I think we've got a great team. We've got a solid foundation, but we do have a lot of talent on our squad, and I can understand how some other owners would be looking at our bench and seeing guys going off every week. Like, we got Naheem back on the bench this week, and he just had 20 points last week, and then Curtis too, guys like that. But I think it's important to have a bunch of those guys in our locker room so that when we do have weeks where DeAndre can't go or James needs a break, stuff like that, we have the guys to fill in and have the next man up mentality there. So I won't say we aren't willing to make any moves, but we're definitely happy with what we've got.
All right, man. Sounds good. Always a pleasure talking to Joshua Roddy, owner, general manager, coach, friend, and father of the Rods Bods. We appreciate your input, your hot takes, and especially your big bad team. All right, man. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure is all mine. Thanks for having me.